just for you and me. The dogwood was never to grow strong and tall again. Hello, everybody. This is old Lonnie Jones again with my life story and what God's done for me. And we are going on episode number 20 right now. I just finished up 19. And we were talking about the campgrounds and Larry Plemons coming to pick for me, and Larry having a bus. And that's a little story that a lot of people wonder why we call Larry's Grand Old Garage Larry's Grand Old Garage. Well, Larry was a good friend of mine, probably one of the best friends I've ever had. And Larry and I were big buddies, and Larry Plemons worked for the Nashville Transit Bus Company as a mechanic downtown. And how I come to know Larry was my nephew, Dennis Brown, worked down at the bus depot where they worked on the buses as mechanics. They were both worked together as mechanics. And I believe that Dennis told Larry about me playing out at the campgrounds and different places that I played and everything. And of course, turns out Larry played guitar and sang too. Larry sang Chubby Checkers, and he sang a lot of the rock and roll stuff, Little Richard stuff. And Larry weighed about 350 pounds, and he could move across stage like he weighed 100 pounds. Larry was quite a guy. But anyway, that's sort of how I become to know Larry, I believe, is Dennis, my nephew, told him about us playing at the campgrounds. And lo and behold, one night, Larry shows up out at the campgrounds, and I get introduced to him by a steel player, and I can't, for the life of me, remember what the steel player's name was, but I will on my next episode, maybe not my next episode, but very in the near future, I will get that gentleman's name, because it's important that we know who the steel player was and who he played for, because what happened to that steel player was just very unique and so sad of what happened to him. He sneezed and it actually paralyzed him. This particular steel player that come out there with Larry, introduced him to me, he actually sneezed. He tried to hold the sneeze, and he put so much pressure on his spine that it ruptured and paralyzed him. He was never able to play steel guitar ever again. And he was actually a fairly young man, I would say in his mid to upper 40s. Great steel player, and I will find out what his name was, and I just cannot remember. And he was real funny when he talked, and to you, he was telling jokes all the time, and they were always clean jokes. There were never bad jokes or anything, but he was so funny, and he was just such a wonderful human being. And he and I were friends, and he brought Larry out to the campgrounds, and Larry got to know me again through Dennis and through him, because he had played steel for me some. And so anyway, that's how I come them out to the campgrounds. And I will get the steel player's name. It's so sad that what happened to him did, but Larry came out, and we got to talking. I got Larry up and got him to sing a couple of songs. And Larry had big old huge hands. And steel players, back to steel players a little bit here just a second. I know more steel players than I know fiddle players, and I've been in bluegrass a long time. But I was in country music as well. In the beginning, I mixed my bluegrass and my country together. I most always had a steel player with me when I started doing the country music and the bluegrass music. Of course, when I was doing bluegrass, I didn't have drums, and I didn't have steel guitars and all that stuff when I was originally playing bluegrass at the campgrounds and everything. But as time went on, I inverted my country music into my bluegrass, and this is where I started knowing all the steel players and lead guitar players, and I went to electric bass instead of upright bass, and that type of thing. But Larry Plemons came out there and got to singing with me, and we were had a band. We was doing fairs and stuff like that. Well, Larry proceeds to tell me that he has a bus that he could carry us different places in. So I one night we got done at the campgrounds, and I told him I'd meet him the next day over at 549 East Maple Street, and that's where Larry's General Garage is at now. It was a garage. He built transmissions in this what we call Larry's General Garage now. It was the back part wasn't owned at the time. It was just the one front part, and his work table was where the concession stand is now. And where I'm sitting now, there was down on the floor coming through the wall in the back was an air conditioner with a big old tube laying on the floor blowing air in here. And it was laying down on the floor. There wasn't no stage where I'm sitting now and what most people out there are used to. So when I come in here, it looked nothing like what you see now, of course. And he was working on transmissions, and the floor was concrete, and he had holes knocked in the floor where the transmission had fell on the floor and all that kind of thing. You wouldn't believe it if you saw it when I first came over here to see Larry and see his bus. Well, when I come over here, there's apartments across from Larry's Garage now, and back in those days, the year of 1996, 97, 98, there was nothing over there. It was just a big field. And so I came over to see Larry, and I saw his old bus. His old bus weeds was growing up around it. I think he went to Florida on vacation in it maybe one time or two times maybe. And it was what they call an old flex bus. It was like a 1949 or 50, what you call flex. And I don't know why they call it flex. If anybody out there knows why it was called a flex bus, that's fine. If you don't, you might as well be fine too, because I can't tell you what a flex. I can tell you it's about the ugliest looking thing I ever seen. But what was funny about it is that was one of the first kind of buses Flat and Scruggs ever went in, was an old flex bus. So it was a day of the times of the buses back then. The flex bus was pretty, it was about the best thing going, and everybody had one. I think Jimmy Martin maybe had one. I don't know what Bill Monroe had for sure, but at any rate, that's what Larry had. And it was the awfulest looking thing you ever saw in your life. It needed a paint job bad. It looked like it actually looked like it just come out of a junkyard. Basically inside and out. But it had seats in it, and the thing ran pretty good. So at that point, Larry volunteered to carry us around to some fairs. We were doing fairs like Lawrenceburg, Lewisburg, Columbia, Tennessee, Dixon, Tennessee, Gallatin. I don't remember back then of ever doing the Lebanon Fair, but Larry would carry us to a lot of these fairs where we played out back then on that old flex bus. And again, we was on a bus. There wasn't nobody else riding buses. They was riding in vans or cars or whatever. Well, here we come rolling in this old flex bus. Looked like Beverly Hillbillies. Jalopy had it been in the same days and era. But it didn't matter. It got us there and got us back, no matter how ugly it was. So Larry would carry us to all these places. And one place that I would like to bring up that we went to, and it was up in Kentucky, and I got to think what the name of it was Monticello, Kentucky. That's where it went, Monticello, Kentucky. Well, at that time, there was a gentleman by the name of Jim Gear playing dobro for me, and Dave Blood was playing mandolin for me. Ronnie was playing bass for me at the time. John Hager, which most of you were going to watch this, most of you know who John Hager was. And John Hager was playing fiddle with me. And I had a little girl playing with me at the time, and she was going along, her and her mom and dad. She was like 16 years old, something like that. Her name was Janie McPherson. Janie McPherson. And buddy, she could sing, and she still can sing. Haven't saw her in a few years, but I can tell you right now, she was great then, and I'll bet you she's great now. She could sing Rocky Top, I mean, like you've never heard in your life. You know, any country music that you wanted to hear, she could do it. She done a great job at it. So anyway, we all met together. At the time, I was living in Hendersonville, and we all met there on Saunders Ferry Road, the corner of Saunders Ferry Road and Gallon Road. Dave Blood met us there. Of course, Ronnie was living with me then, because Ronnie was only like 14 years old, I guess, something like that. Dave Blood, everybody, John, all of us met there, and it was spitting snow. And it was about, I guess it was about 20 degrees, maybe 25 degrees, and spitting snow. And here we are going to Monticello, Kentucky, and we're going north. And guess where the snow's at? The snow is north. And we've never been to Monticello, Kentucky. I don't even remember exactly how we got the job, but we did go to Monticello, Kentucky, and it was a long way up there. It was out of the state of Tennessee into Kentucky, but it wasn't too far over the line. But I know we went through Somerset, Kentucky, because the story goes on that I'll tell you about Somerset, Kentucky when I get done with the front part of this program here, or the front part of this story I'm telling. So we cut out from Hendersonville and we head up Gallon Road. We going north, and back then I was drinking, so I didn't pay any attention which way we even went. I couldn't tell you hardly which way we went than the man in the moon. But Janie's mom and dad was with us, and Janie, and then you had John Hager, Dave Blood, Ronnie, and Jim Gear. And we all went up there, and we was going to do a country and bluegrass show. Well, we left about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, I guess it was, about 4:30, 5 o'clock, Hendersonville. And we were going to Monticello, Kentucky. Well, it's about 2 hours up there to 2.5 hours up there. And I think our show started at 7 o'clock. So we drive and drive and drive. Of course, in the wintertime, it's done gotten dark on us. We left daylight in Hendersonville. It went to getting dark on us on the way to Monticello. So we got dark on the way up there, but Larry found his way to Monticello, Kentucky, and don't ask me how we found our way anywhere back then. There was no such thing as a cell phone that would give you GPS. Only GPS we had was a big old atlas map, about that big, something like that. So to make it as near as I can to tell you, we followed that map, or Larry followed that map into Monticello, Kentucky. Well, when we got there to Monticello, Kentucky, it was in this hotel. The show was in the basement of the hotel. And the hotel was, I don't know, I guess it was 6 or 8 stories high. Back in those days, that was in the 70s. So back in those days, in those country towns like that, I don't think there was any skyscraper hotels, if you know what I'm saying. So we got there, and our show was in the basement, and there was only one set of stairs down and one set of stairs up. Everybody would come in. You didn't have to have, evidently, it didn't have to have 2 doors, a way to get out back in those days. In other words, there was only one way in and one way out. And there's a band out there called, I think, One Way Out. And they're very good up around Lebanon, Tennessee. But, so we go down the stairs and we set up all the equipment and they help us set up all the equipment and everything. They had a stage about like I'm on now, not much bigger than this at all, but it'd seat about probably 150 people, I would say, is what it would probably seat. Well, we got down there, got set up, got tuned up and everything. Showtime came, and boy, that place packed. They packed them in there, standing room only, and I mean literally. They were all seats were full. You would have thought I was Bill Monroe or Flat and Strug or somebody. They packed that place. Let me tell you, they did. They were standing in the aisleways. All the chairs were full. When we were standing on stage, all you could see was people sitting down. Even hard for them to see because so many people standing. But so we started the show and we was going along there. We'd been going along about what we would always do. We would do 2 45-minute shows. We'd do a 45-minute show, sell CDs, wasn't CDs back then, sorry. We'd sell records, and they were those big records like this. They wasn't the little ones, they were the big ones like this. That we would sell records and sign autographs. Believe it or not, people wanted you to sign every one of them. So we'd sell records, sign autographs, and then we'd do another 45 minutes. So we did the first 45 minutes, and we did our selling of our albums and our signing autographs and everything. Well, we went back up there, and there was a bench over to the right of the stage, and that's where Janie and her mom and dad were sitting over there, and we were up there just singing, having a big time. All at once, we saw this big ruckus broke out way back in the back by the stair steps. There's this big ruckus broke out back there, and again, it was just packed. And we were singing and having a big old time, and all of a sudden, this crowd started moving all kinds of directions and everything. And the guy looked, and everything, all the action kept coming towards the stage. They just kept coming towards the stage, and then what it was a big fight broke out back in the back by the door. And that fight broke out. Instead of them going on upstairs and carrying it out on the street, man, they was coming right toward the stage. Fighting and carrying on. You never seen nothing like it in your life. And I mean, there was people stepping up in chairs, getting out of the way, and everything. You name it, and they was doing it, getting out of the way. Well, closer they got to the stage, the more uneasier I was. And like I said, I was drinking back in those days too, and nothing never bothered me, but fighting always bothered me. I'm not part of this fighting thing, but so I got uneasy for everybody that was on stage, so they got pretty close to us, and I got everybody off the stage, got over by, and was trying to get over near Janie and her parents, and trying to, the guys we could sort of take care of ourselves, but they weren't used to nothing like that. So we got over there by the bench where they were sitting and tried to sort of get everything, get them blocked off before they wasn't going to get into no kind of trouble and everything. Well, by the time we quit playing music and got over out of the way, and it got right up real close to the edge of the stage, the police showed up. So the police showed up and drug the 2 guys out of there and carried them up the steps. And they went on back, and everybody sat back down. We went back up. We did our 45-minute show, and we just had a good time. Even with that didn't upset the apple cart too bad. Everybody still had a good time. We got paid, and we packed our stuff up and everything. And by that time, it had done got to 5 degrees outside. It was 5 degrees outside. It was so cold it quit snowing. That's how cold it got. You know, it can, some people think it can snow in time, but it always depends on the humidity and everything about how much snow you're going to get when it gets cold. Just because it's cold doesn't mean it's going to snow. So it got 5 degrees and the snow stopped falling, and it was just a little snow here, a little there. Wasn't any on the roads to mount anything. It was just spitting snow a little bit at 5 degrees. So we loaded everything up and we headed back. And we got, I guess we got 25 or 30 miles down the road, and the bus quit on us. The bus quit on us. And so Larry couldn't figure out what it was. He got out over the side of the road and got out and went around and kept looking. He started it back up. Well, it started back up and it'd run 7 or 8, 10 miles and it quit again. Well, it turns out the gas lines the gas was freezing up. It was 3 degrees above zero. And let me tell y'all, that Flex bus didn't have no heat. There was no heat on that bus. There was no defrost on that bus. I was the defrost man. I'm sitting up there wiping the windshield from the inside because the heat from the bodies was making the windshield fog over. So I'm standing up there wiping the defrost off so Larry can see how to drive. But we drive 10 miles and the bus quit again. So it turns out that the gas line was froze. Well, I believe it's Highway 90. We was on Highway 90, just almost in Somerset, Kentucky. As I told you, I was going to tell you about Somerset, Kentucky. Well, we're sitting in the middle of the road now. Now, don't forget, our show ended at 10 o'clock. We played from 7 to 10. Well, our show ended at 10 o'clock. Well, here we are sitting in the middle of Highway 90, almost in Somerset, Kentucky, right in the middle of the road. The bus won't go nowhere. 3 degrees. 3 degrees. Well, lo and behold, here come the highway patrolman. Where in the world he come from, nobody to this day, I don't think, knows where he came from. But here comes the highway patrolman. Well, I want you to know that Larry had a log chain. And most of you out there watching this knows what a log chain is. Larry had a log chain on that bus. What reason? I guess maybe it might have been pulled before, for all I know. I'm not sure. But Larry had a log chain, and he talked that highway patrolman into pulling him up this grade out of the road at the top of the hill in Somerset, Kentucky. Because once that bus started rolling, that police car could pull it without a whole lot of trouble. And I've got another story for you about a bus later on, up in 1999. We're talking about right now, we're talking about 1975 right now. 1975, roughly. This is roughly 1975. I'm going to tell you another one that you would never believe, but you can believe me because I did it. About another bus, which was far from being a Flex bus, actually. But so anyway, but right now we're talking about the highway patrolman pulling this bus out of the road, up this hill, over in front of a person's mailbox, in front of a person's house, till daylight come. He pulled us up out of the edge of the road, over in the edge of the driveway where the mailbox was, on Highway 90 in Somerset, Kentucky. That's where we spent the night. And we knew there wasn't no heat on the bus, so everybody had blankets, but me, I didn't have no blanket. I didn't need no blanket. I had me, I think, some 90 proof. I figured that I wouldn't, what I need a blanket for. But they did have blankets. Mr. and Mrs. McPherson had brought some blankets. Poor old John and Dave Blood and Ronnie, all of them shivering back there, froze to death. And I managed to be able to get under a blanket, I think, with Mr. and Mrs. McPherson. I had 2 or 3 blankets, and some of us got under blankets, and some of us just fought it. Basically, just fought the cold. So the next morning, when the sun come up and we could see what was going on, Larry got back in the back, and the bus had a generator on it, and it had a gas tank separate from the bus. So what Larry done is Larry switched and was able to run a gas line from the generator gas tank to the main line going to the motor. And by doing that, the generator gas tank had enough fuel in it to get us out of Somerset, Kentucky, and get us back to the interstate. It was I-65 north, but we were, of course, coming south. And I don't know and have no clue to where we come back and hit the interstate at. I don't ever remember going up the interstate getting there. I remember we came back on the interstate. Now, where we got on the interstate out, I don't know. But we were able, Larry was able to hook that gas line up from that tank from the generator to the main engine and get us back to a service station. And of course, then it started warming up. By the time we got back to the interstate, it was about 10 or 15 degrees. And he filled that gas tank back up, and we actually came back home on the gas from the generator that was on that bus, because the other one was still froze up. We was able to come back, and somehow that line from there to the motor wasn't freezing up. And why it didn't, we're not sure of that. So at this point, we're gonna leave that and tell you. Then I'll tell you some more stories about us going, and I believe I'll be in 21, in episode 21 at that point. I'll tell you another story or two about the bus and Larry and everybody on episode number 21. So I'm going to leave you at this point. We're going to do a couple of tunes for you on episode 20 here. And I hope you enjoy this one. And don't forget that Friendship Missionary Baptist Church at 101 Flat Ridge Road. If you go through Millersville, top the ridge right there, when you top the ridge, you'll see Flat Ridge Road. And we are right on the corner of Flat Ridge Road and the highway. I think it's, I don't know where it's 41. I think it's 41. Anyway, if you go through Millersville, you'll find Flat Ridge Road up on top of the hill. We're there on Sundays from 11 to 12 o'clock, and our Nelson Garrett is our preacher, and boy, he's a good one. I tell you, you'd love him to death. If you can't come and be there at 11 o'clock, tune us in on Facebook, because it'll be on Facebook. So right now we're going to do a couple of numbers, and hope you've enjoyed this episode, and we'll tell you a little bit more on episode 21 about traveling that old Flex bus. So I'll see you on 21. Thank you. All right, we're live at Larry's Grand Old Garage at 549 East Maple Street, and you're looking at something now that you've never seen before at Larry's Grand Old Garage. I've got a lot of friends here with us tonight. We go back a lot of years, and I thought I'd throw this thing together and call them up, and they said, "Why, sure, we'll do it. They'd be glad to do it." This old boy on my left over here, we'll introduce everybody as we go, but this old boy on my left played for Loretta Lynn for how many years, Bobby?
About 28.
28 years for Loretta Lynn, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. Bobby Hemster, give him a good hand. And we're going to talk to everybody about everybody as the time goes on. And Rita's going to sing some country tonight. Now, you believe that? She's going to do it. She's going to do a couple of country songs tonight. We got Gary Adams with us sitting out there tonight. We're going to do a little bluegrass too. A little while the guys take a little break here. So we're going to have a big time. And this is really a get-together of old friends tonight. I'm doing a little country music for you. Right now, we're going to start out with a little thing called Heartaches by the Numbers. Let's do it, boys.
3, 4, 1, 2.
Every day you love me less, each day I love you more. Yes, I've got heartaches by the number of love that I can't win. But the day that I stop counting, that's the day my world will end. was when you came back again. You came back and never had to stay. Yes, I've got heartache by the number, rolled by the shore. Every day you love me less, day I love you more. Yes, I've got heartache by the number, I can't win. And the day that I talk county, that's the day my world will end. Heartache number 3 was when you called me and said that you were coming back to stay. With awful heart I waited for your knock on the door. I waited but you have lost your way. Yes, I've got heartache by the number, that's the day that I talk county, that's the day my world will end. Heartaches by the number. Man, one of the first men to ever play steel guitar for me. It's a KOA Campgrounds. Mr. Ray Mangrum. Give Ray a great big hand here. This is the kind of stuff that I used to do back a long time ago. I integrated country music into my bluegrass. I did a lot of bluegrass, and but I inverted some country into it too, and I had to have a steel player to do that. Of course, you have to have a fiddle player, and the fiddle player that I used most all was what was in there? We told was anyway. John Hanger was one of them, and the other one was no, the one that played with me when we used to do on contests.
Crawford?
Dick Crawford. Yeah, Dick Crawford was the one that played with me first at the campgrounds out there, along with this guy here and this guy here. And we used to have some big time. Right now we'll get in the key of D and carry on here. As we go on, we'll introduce everybody. And we'll do one right now called Crazy Arms. We'll do that in about a key of D. And this is, so right now, if I get the fiddle player to kick this off, key of D, Crazy Arms.
3, 4, 1, 2.
mine. Someday, my friend, the arms will hold somebody new. But now I'm so lonely all the time. Crazy arms and me too old somebody new. But my yearning heart keeps saying you're not mine. Why trouble my nose soon? To another you'll be wed. And that's why I'm lonely all the time. Somebody play! Why trouble my nose soon? To another you'll be wed. And that's why I'm lonely all the time. Take it home there, Mr. Campbell. Jesus died on the cross from a dogwood tree. He gave his life and soul just for you and me. The dogwood was never to grow strong and tall